Good morning, everyone. Welcome. We are really excited that you guys decided to join us. So, as Nazira said, my name is Cindy Knowles. I have a master's degree in herbal science from UWC. The that course now is called traditional medicine or something like that. Since then, I've morphed into skills development, which is what I do now. So I go into communities and I teach them everything from agriculture all the way up to urban survival. So it basically is creating entrepreneurs from what you grow. Sorry. So it is teaching them agro processing, making jams, pestos, chutneys, those types of things from what it is that you grow. Medipreneurship, which is teaching them how to make medicine from what you grow. Foraging, learning how to identify plants for their culinary and medicinal properties and how to then use it and incorporate it into daily life. And then urban survival, which literally is using what you have around you to survive with all the other knowledge that you've acquired with the plant life. And so today is more of an urban survival type of concept, off the grid living, basically. So it is a series of workshops that we actually would like to offer to those that are interested, and I'm really excited to see so many people that were interested today. So thank you once again for coming. um, I want to start, we're going to start off with the just the basic concepts, because there's so much entailed in this whole concept of off the grid living that people don't really understand. And it all boils down to the why. What is your why as to why you would like to go into off the grid living? People do it for various reasons. So I'm just going to talk about living in the concrete jungle, what you need to do to overcome off the grid living in that concept, and then those who actually want to go and live in the country, what it is you need to then consider. Like I said, this is just the almost say preface, but this is just basically the interlude or the beginning as to actual off the grid living, because there is so much more. And I think we are all like-minded in terms of why we actually, I could be wrong, but the main reason, apart from the why, is to be sustainable. And I'm just going to delve into a little of the factors as to why. Louder? Okay. Oh, um, I'll try. Otherwise, can you maybe come a little closer? Is that? Oh, can you hear me? Can everybody hear and see me? Okay. So, unfortunately, the past, well, Thursday and Friday, we had a bit of a mishap at our place. There was something wrong with the geyser that was leaking or whatever. So our kitchen was flooded, and we didn't have water for 2 days. So that sort of reset the mind into how do you actually survive when things go wrong. I think COVID and I think load shedding sort of opened our eyes as to the reality of off the grid living, and I think that made people aware as to how they need to actually start preparing. Because if you see what is happening globally and nationally, you see something is coming. Something definitely is weird, and you need to start changing your mindset and thinking about how you are going to prepare for that. And I suppose we can look at load shedding and all those issues and service delivery and all these other issues that we have as gentle reminders, or helping us to refocus, to actually get our butts in gear, so to say, to actually start. Because the biggest hurdle is your mindset. So you need to change your mindset in order to then start thinking differently and doing differently. Okay, so when you think about the why, what I'm just gonna ask a few questions. Well, I'm just gonna ask a few people just to give me their feedback, just one or two. Why it is that you are interested in off the grid living?
Yes, you see, because of me, when I see this country is going, we're not going to allow everyone living now very, very soon, very work.
Okay, thank you.
And we must also keep in mind by greening our neighborhoods and planting food, and we're actually improving our surroundings,
Yes.
a more positive space.
Yes.
Because if you go into the different neighborhoods, and I always make the comparison, if you go into a white neighborhood, it's green, there's grass, there's plants, everything. Go into our colored or black neighborhoods, there's sand in honor, in beene, in Phyllis, but not gardens. Here and there you see a patch. So we all need to take a certain amount of responsibility for our space, keeping it clean, greening it up, because it's not for others, it's for ourselves.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for.
So I was thinking also about food security.
Yes,
Food security is a problem. It's coming along for the whole world because
absolutely.
of the mess that we
Yeah.
have made
Yeah.
of the world.
Yeah.
So that is something that we all need to realize
Yes.
that soon, not only with the GMO and the seeds that come via GMO means that we are not going to get another harvest, correct?
Yes. Yes.
And we constantly have to buy new seeds.
Yes, yes,
So,
yes,
and with the digital age, they're going to stop us from actually buying as well. You know, they can control how we buy, where we buy.
Yes, you guys touched on a lot of pertinent issues that through the series we will then touch. Sorry, if you can just, I need to just, because we're a bit late. But I'm sure afterwards we can chat about those things. And I'm sure you now, as people are speaking, your thoughts, your emotions, your whys is coming to the fore. And that is exactly what we teach when going through this. It is about food security. It is about environmental conscientiousness. It is about water and energy security. But more important, it is about your preparedness. So your why should be your common drive force as to what will propel you into getting off the grid. Some of you probably have started. So a lot of those topics that all of you guys touched, we will then delve into, because those are very deep topics on its own that has a lot of information that we can really learn a lot around. So today I'm just going to do the basics of preparing yourself and your family. Okay, where do you actually start before you delve into those things, even though those things are the reasons why you are doing it, but you have to start somewhere. So your why is very important. So in general, going off the grid actually means that you are being independent and you are basically trying to disconnect from the infrastructure of the municipality. Because with COVID, we realized, sorry, not COVID so much, but with load shedding, we realized we are so dependent on the municipal grid. And it disrupts our lives like crazy. And it disrupts our livelihoods like crazy. And in order for us to survive and to provide better life and security for our families, we need to make alternative plans. So getting off the grid basically means disconnecting from the municipality infrastructure, and then setting up infrastructures for your home and your family and your community, if you want to go that far, so that you can then be sustainable. And this includes water, energy, food security, sewage and waste, and gas. Okay, so those are all things that you need to then consider and make plans for. Now, some people do a phased approach. Some people do a total off the grid. Some people do like a backup plan where if the grid goes off during load shedding, we then have our inverters, whatever, just to back up so that we can still continue. And some people only live that way when they go camping, you know. So there are different areas and different ways that we can do it. But I'm sure most of us would like to get to completely off the grid. The problem is it's very expensive. And the main thing is it takes a lot of mindset change. We need to be more conscientious, and we need to have an attitude of resilience, because without that we cannot then move forward. You need to be completely committed because it takes a lot from you. So it's a real mindset change into not think, before there was this thing about I'm the queen, it's all about me, my reality, my life, my everything. But life is changing, life is showing us we can't have that selfish attitudes anymore. We can't have that self-centered concepts of what our life is about. We now need to start thinking about what the future holds and how we can best prepare for it, how we can best prepare our communities and our family for it, and also the environment. We don't realize how our decisions play such a big role on the environment and the impact that it has, because the environment will also determine the longevity of the future. So, yes, some people talk about the climate hoax, but the reality is our choices do impact the environment and is causing more damage than good. So we need to be conscientious about the environment as well, because we cannot live without it. So we need to create and empower that symbiotic relationship with that, because we exhale CO2 and plants and nature produce oxygen. So it is a symbiotic relationship that we cannot live without. And we were made to interact with these environmental concepts so that we can improve them, grow them, to improve ourselves and grow ourselves. Because at the end of the day, medicine, food, sustainability all comes from what we take from the environment. So we need to learn to plow back. It is a give and take type of situation, and we need to be more conscientious about that. So the reasons why most people want to go off the grid in the concrete jungle, and I call it the concrete jungle because cities, there isn't a lot of greenery. I mean, if you look at the Cape Flats, for example, there's hardly trees, plants, flowers. If you don't bring it, there's nothing there. And so you literally get so used to the concept of this is life. Everybody lives on top of each other. It's just buildings, and the more people that migrate into Cape Town, the bigger families grow, the more space is being taken up, the more of nature and environment is being diminished. And so this is the reality that we live with, but we don't realize the impact that it is having, or that we are having, on the environment as well. So the concrete jungle might be a reality that we are used to, but we need to change that mindset as well. And we need to start incorporating nature back into the concrete jungle. So the reason why lots of people want to get off the grid in South Africa, those factors are driven by the electricity problems, the infrastructural problems, the breakages of pipes. I don't know if you guys have experienced it, but this year there was a lot of pipe bursts, a lot of maintenance, and then you tend to sit 2 or 3 days without water, and you cannot live without water. Like I said, Thursday and Friday we had no water. It disrupted everything. You can't make food, you can't do your ablutions. You really take opening the tap for granted so much. And we are not prepared when there is no water once you open the tap. So water is such a intense commodity that we need for every single facet in our lives. And if we don't make alternative arrangements, so to say, then we are going to be stuck when there is no water. So, for example, if there is a grid collapse or a grid shutdown, what are we going to do? You know, those are just some things we need to think about. So also, the corruption in the country is another big factor as to the impact that these resources have on our lives, you know. And then also the unreliability of infrastructure, people not taking their work seriously, doing shoddy jobs. So they fix it today and then next week it breaks again. Yes, it's more money for them at the end of the day, so that's probably why they do such bad work. But we are the ones that suffer at the end of the day, because now our lives are impacted even more. We need to do without more, but we need to change our mind and our thinking and look at it as a blessing to force us to then put other alternatives in place. The rising cost of food, of petrol, of electricity, of everything impacts everything that we do. I don't know about you guys, but just food in itself increasing, it sets you, it changes your whole budget completely, because now you need to think of the supply chain that food item goes through. Every single part of the supply chain now increases. The petrol, the cold storage, the packaging, all those different things is now calculated in that cost, and it never comes down. And you can't do without food. So that is also something that is driving people to, I need an alternative solution. I cannot be a slave to the system like this so much. So the rising cost of living, petrol, electricity, water, food, those things are a very big factor. If we are conscientious, we then have a thought as to the impact that we are having on the environment, because we are literally killing the environment even by driving our cars. Yes, the CO2 is emitted, but all the other gases in there are harmful. So it isn't as we think, oh, it's a symbiotic relationship. There's so much more to it that you need to actually consider and be conscientious of. And then what because of all these factors, you eventually get to a point where you really just want to be independent from the municipality system, which supplies you with your daily needs of water and electricity and waste disposal, because that's what you need to survive. And just the thought of getting away or breaking ties with that municipality system is daunting, because where do you start? How do you start? What do you do if you don't have the money? If you do have the money, what aspect do you look at first? Because there's so many that you have to consider. Do you first want to look at the water? Do you first want to look at the electricity? Or do you want to first look at the food? So these are different concepts that you need to then consider as to what is best for you and your family, and that will determine the how you go about it. Now, when we think of the bigger picture as to why people actually want to go into the country off-grid, that is a whole different concept, because there's so much involved. But most people, I speak under correction, but I am assuming you guys are on the same page with me. Most people are driven out of the country firstly because of the crime. The crime has just gotten ridiculous. So you want a safer space for your family. But the important thing is you know what is coming. You know what the future holds, and a few of you touched on those points. And so you want to get out of the system that will trap you in that scenario of what is coming. So getting off-grid into the country is preferably your final or your ultimate decision. Okay, so we're going through these workshops. look at how to do it, how to live in the environment now off grid, and then work towards going off grid in the country. But if you want to go into the country now, that's also up to you. It is all about your why. And so the reason why you want to go out into the country is driven by those things that you know is coming, like the CBDC. I don't know if you know what that is, but those are concepts that you now, especially the past 2 weeks, we have seen a lot of happenings that is opening your eyes as to it is being activated. And so it's getting nearer and nearer. It's not only the UK that it's happening. It literally is busy happening here, and we are not prepared. And we are not aware. Because we're so busy with everyday life, trying to fight and survive, that we are not being watchmen and looking around us to see the signs of what is actually being implemented that will force us into a lock and grid type of situation. So we need to have a serious mindset change to counteract, circumvent, or preempt the being locked into that situation. And so apart from that, we want our own independence where we are not dictated to by the legislation or the rules that surround our infrastructure. So if there is load shedding, you want independence from that. You don't want to be subjected to it's happening and now it's just going to make your life miserable because you cannot provide for your family the way you need to. It really does disrupt in a major way. And then ultimately you want financial freedom. So yes, you will be putting in the measures in place now for long-term financial freedom. Because once you get to that point of being off the grid, now you don't have to subject yourself to the everyday rising costs because now you are sovereign in your own money situation. You are being able to manage your own things the way you need to and what is best for you and your family. So that ultimately is where you want to be at the end of the day. That complete financial freedom and independence is the ultimate goal that you want to achieve, but it is a long-term situation. So now, the main reasons is, like I said, to have this sovereignty so that you can then provide a better future for your family, right? Where they can grow up in a different type of society, where they don't have to be subjected to these nuances that we are experiencing now, so that they can live the life that we always wanted and that our forefathers used to live. Complete independence from mainstream, so to say. And so we need to seriously consider, where is it that we want to start that independence or our journey towards the independence? Is it the food? Is it electricity, or at least power generation, or is it water? Because those are the main elements that impact our life, that also determine our financial autonomy, our independence, and so forth. So once again, resilience is key. You need to decide what avenue you want to start with. If you want to start with all three, that is fabulous, but can you do it? So it is really it's an eye-opener. It's a reality check as to, do you have the means to actually do this? And once you start doing this and learning the ways of doing this, you can then help others to do the same. Because that is the aim in life, is also to help others, to share your knowledge, to empower them through what you know, so that they don't have to struggle like maybe you did in the beginning. So we need to foster a mindset of stewardship, of discipline and resilience. stewardship towards the environment, because we are in charge of how the environment is treated and how it reacts to us. So stewardship is a very important concept. Stewardship is taking ownership and responsibility of the choices and the actions that you make, and the impact that those choices and actions have on the environment, on your friends, family, and your community. And then we need to learn to be responsible, and a lot of people unfortunately are not responsible. Right now life was easy, it was very self-centered. You have the money, you live. You can't go to the municipality and complain, because now you're independent, you're off the grid, so to say. So do you know how to actually, yes, you've gone off the grid, but do you know now going forward how to maintain that lifestyle, especially if you have gone into the country? So these are things that you need to consider, and it is wise to rather start now. So how do you start now? You start by changing your habits. You start by incorporating little things into your daily life. So, and then you work out a transition phased approach. This is just my advice. If you want to start big, that is up to you. But I would advise start a phased approach. Start small by, if you are in the shower, put a bucket there and capture the water that is just running into the drain. From your geyser, if you don't have it, put a pipe outside and link it to your garden. This is called the grey water system. So even if you are brushing your teeth, rather try and use a cup, or close the tap in between or while you are busy, and then only reopen it, or use your cup to then rinse your mouth out. It's small little things. The water that you have used to cook your pasta or whatever, or your potatoes or rice, throw that into your garden. It's about trying to look at ways to do things differently. We have this very wasteful attitude in life, and we have a very entitlement attitude. We just feel that we must just have clean water. We need clean water to wash the car, to shower, to bath, to everything. And actually, about 50 years ago, people never had showers or geysers or hot water, and for thousands of years before that. So we are actually privileged living the life that we do with all these conveniences. But I think it is time to start rethinking. We enjoyed the privileges. How do we continue the comfort whilst changing our attitude? So yes, we can incorporate things, because modern technology is so amazing. There are now things that you can do, because people always think, oh, going off grid, you have to live like the Amish. And that is not the case. Modern technology is amazing. If you can afford it, you don't have to do that things. But there are other techniques that you can actually use to incorporate, where you can still have some form of comfortability, but you don't have to go completely Amish. There's no better way to describe the type of concept of what it is we're trying to say. So I would advise to think of what it is you want to do, and then transition. Now, step one would be that you need to look at your house. You need to consider what is the type of system that would work on your house. So if you are now going to look at installing your renewable energy system, right? So renewable energy is basically your power solution that you want to incorporate, and what would work best for your family, and also what would work best for your home setup. Some people live in flats or apartments, and it's not easy to incorporate those types of things. There's things like body corporates and all of those things that will affect your decisions that you make. So you really need to look at your actual home structure and situation, and think about what is the best renewable energy system that you can start off with. right? And the basics would be you would get a solar PV kit, right? And that is basically your panels, your inverters, your batteries, and your wires, right? That's the basic system. Obviously, the bigger you go, the more you will get, the more you will need to connect and store and so forth. You need to think of the size of the system that you want. That is determined by how you are going to phase it in. If you are going to have a phased approach, like I discussed in the beginning, if you just want something that is in between load shedding, then it would just be an inverter maybe and a few batteries that can then, suffice until the electricity goes back on. But if you want a more sustainable system, then you would sort of have the solar panels then, but that could also just be to power your appliances like your fridge and your necessities, so that your food doesn't go off, so that your appliances don't break down, because that is what load shedding also does. And so that those appliances can then have that regular energy, so that there's no surge that will actually break the system of the actual appliance. So you also need to see the type of structure of your house. What can it hold? So if you are living in an apartment, for example, where are you going to put your solar system, your solar panels? So you need to find solutions. Maybe you need a portable solution. Maybe you have a stoop outside, you can maybe put it there. If the body corporate allows, maybe you can put it on the roof, but they have a lot of legislation as well. So you need to consider what is going to work for your household. You also need to consider what is your daily consumption. So this will determine the type of system that you are going to get. Because if you don't consume a lot of energy, you're a small household, you're not home for most of the day, you only use power at night basically, you won't need a big system. But if you're at home all the day and you do a lot of things, or you work from home, or whatever the case may be, you might obviously require much more energy. So it really depends on your family situation, the amount of energy that you consume. So that will determine the type of system or the size of the system that you actually get. Some people only need solar panels and then a small little battery to store that. And then when they need the power, they then get it from the battery. Others might need a very big battery system to store as much power as possible should you need it consistently throughout the day, or depending on how you want to phase off the grid. So it really is, you need to start planning with what your end-term goal is and how you plan to achieve it. That will then backtrack and determine what size of system you're going to get, what you're actually going to get, because some people, they just get generators, so they don't need solar power or something like that. So again, it depends on the type of house that you have. Some houses have solar panels built into the roof, for the geysers and so forth. So you might not need a lot. Maybe you can just add to what is already there. So it's not a one size fits all. It's a very personal type of thing. It is, I can't tell you you must do this, because it might not work for you. It might not work for all of you, because all your situations and systems might be very different. So you need to research and see what is best for the type of house that you have, the type of materials your house is made out of, because some houses are very well insulated. So that will also help lessen the amount of electricity that you use. Some are not. So for example, in winter, you might need a lot of electricity just to survive, to keep warm, So the types of material that your house is made up of. Do you have insulation in your roof? Do you have those types of things. Will it keep it cool during the day? Will it give you, is the airflow that is coming in? Those are all the types of things you need to then also consider when you are implementing a solar system. If you stay near something like you have a borehole or whatever, you can also use that as an energy source. And I'll get to that later when I deal with water. If you have a stream or a lake or something near to where you live, those are also energy sources. It's not just water sources, because back in the day you used to see these windmill type of things, and it used to be built for milling actually, but it also generates electricity. So in the Swartlands and so forth, you'll see all these wind turbines. They are actually energy generating wind turbines, and when water flows, that is a source of energy. If you have like a fan type of system in the water, as the water flows, the fan moves, and that friction creates energy. So you need to also look at your environment. What are the different things you have around you that can also supplement or be different ways to actually get your energy from? It's not only solar. There's many other ways that you can get energy. So the next thing is, when you do your water supply, are you only going to do a grey water system, or are you going to implement a rain harvesting system? Sorry, just a bit. So what I think I mentioned before, what a grey water system is. It is basically you reusing the water from your daily usage, from your daily life. So it's capturing that water, repurposing it for doing your washing, and for your garden, for your plants and so forth, in your toilets as well. You can set it up like that. That is a grey water system. It's not for personal use. Rainwater system you can use in the same way, where you capture the water and use it for your garden. If you upgrade, you have a bigger rainwater harvesting system, you can then pump that water into your house. So your rain harvesting system deals with capturing points. So the type of roof that you have is also important, because when it rains, how's the water going to fall, right? Because that's the main thing. If you have a flat roof, that's a bit difficult, because the water will just stay on the roof. So you need to consider these things also. You need to look at different ways to then capture. Lots of people have water tanks that just the rainwater falls into those tanks. But obviously you want to do something where you can capture as much rain as possible, because water is life. You cannot live without water.
So it's more like storage. Winter, there's so much rain, and then maybe put all the
Yes, exactly. So that is why, apart from setting up the harvesting system, which will be your piping, looking at the angles, looking at how gravity can work for you, the main thing is your storage tanks. So if you know there's a lot of water around you, it rains, like for example Bishop's Court, it rains more there than it does in the rest of Cape Town, because of the mountain, and it's called orographic rain. So as the clouds come over the mountain, where the mountain then dips or ends, rain happens there. That is how nature works. And so that is why it's always raining. It's always cloudy there. Whether the rest of Cape Town is sunny, it's always rain. And that's why it looks so lush, because it's always rain. And that is the type of rain that happens there. So it depends on where you are situated. That will determine the type of storage mechanisms that you have. So your water tanks are very, very important. Now you get different size water tanks. You can create like a platform with a little roof type of thing next to your roof, where you can store your water tank on, which will give you more space at the bottom, especially if you don't have a lot of space around your house, because some houses are big but the outside space is very small. So you need to look at different ways that will accommodate the type of water storage that it is that you need. So then you can, and most people just put the tank next to their house. So you would set your gutters up. In your gutter you would have a first flush system. Now this means that when the rain falls, the first flow of water is then discarded, because that water is full of debris and muck and so on. Whatever was on the roof or in the gutters, that will be dirty, and the rain will pick that up. So the first flush system flushes that away. It doesn't capture it. After the first flush system, there's this little leaf sieve that you then put at the beginning of the tank. That will then, whatever other leaves or debris that is still in the water or blows into the gutters while it's raining or whatever, that will then capture that there, so that only the water will then filter into the tank. You can also then, and that's your basic system, you can also then have a purification and filtration setup. That is where you have it's like these filters that they put in that actually purifies and filters the water so that you can actually consume it. And normally it entails charcoal. So because charcoal purifies water, anything actually. So most purification systems have charcoal in. Now how charcoal works is it looks like a dust, right? But each grain of that dust is very, very multifaceted. So if you look at a diamond, there's lots of different angles on a diamond. And one speck of charcoal has thousands and thousands and thousands of those angles on it. So it works by adsorption. Now we only know what absorption means, which is like you have a sponge, it absorbs moisture, water, whatever into it, and when it's full, that's it. But adsorption with a D means it's like sellotape, for example. So each facet of the diamond shape of that one speck has a sticky or a surface, and all the dust and all the toxins and everything sticks on it. And because there's millions of these surfaces just in one of those specks, it sticks all the toxins and everything on there. So that is why charcoal is so amazing, because whatever toxins is, whatever the purpose is, it adsorbs all the toxins, and it's almost like it cannot get full like with a sponge. There is no end to it. It will just adsorb and adsorb. It will stick and stick and stick and stick. So that is why if you have food poisoning or tummy bug or something, you would drink some charcoal in water, because it would adsorb the toxins. Whatever toxin you have in your body, you would take charcoal, whether it's spider bite, snake venom, food poisoning, any type of toxin, that is what you will take.
Any kind of charcoal.
No. The type of charcoal is very, thank you for that. The type of charcoal is very important, and how it's made is very important. So you should only consume activated charcoal. And activated charcoal means that it went through a specific type of pyrolysis. Pyrolysis is just the burning process. That's what it's called, the burning process. So you would, and you can use different types of wood. They make it from oak, they make it from bamboo and so forth. They put it in a container and they punch holes in the container and they seal the container, and then they put it in the middle of the fire and they make it very hot and they cover it, and then they smoke it, so to say, and burn it until it's charcoal. So there is nothing that will contaminate it. You can't or you mustn't use wood that is treated. It needs to be pure wood, because the treated, whatever they use to treat the wood, is toxic for you, and you don't want any toxins in the charcoal you are making. So that is how you make charcoal, and that is for your consumption. However, when you're using it for purposes other than consumption, wood ash is also okay. It's the same type of concept. But they normally use charcoal. Like even the filters in the car, it's black because it's charcoal filters. So it absorbs the chemicals and the toxins that come from the engine. So when the air blows on you, it's purified. So that's the type of system that you need to put into your purification system with your water treatment. And that costs a bit more, you know. So again, it depends on what you can and can't do. However, you can make your own filtration system. It's called a biofilter. I'm just going to show you a rudimentary thing. That concept you also use for any type of water filtering. If you are in any type of situation that is a survival situation where there's only dirty water around you and you need to drink, you can then filter your water by using what is around you. So it is very important to learn those basic survival skills, which we will then delve into later. Okay, so the first flush system is very important. Your water system that you put in, you can also put it under the ground. So you can lift up your ground. You can either put a tank there, or you can put like bulkers, they call it. So it's like underground water storage. So when the water comes into the one and it fills up, it overflows into the next one, and then it flows into the next one. So it's out of sight, but the water is always there for when you need it. That is the best type of storage, because you can then maximize your space, and you know that you have more, you can save more water than an outside storage, which is only that little bit that you have. So I would advise, if you can, do it, but it's very expensive. Plans are involved, all those types of things, because you can't just do what you want to on your property. You need to get permission from
No, is this serious? You need
from your municipality and so forth. That is the type of concepts that we also want to get away from. That type of laws that restrict and diminish what we can do, or the onus that we take on our lives and how we want our families to live. So that's also very important. When you are filtering your water, and the type of system that you have, it needs to conform to the SANS water laws. So SANS, I think it's 24, could be wrong, can't remember right now, but the water laws in South Africa is governed by the SANS law, and it is just basically the water standard that is allowed for drinking purposes. So when you test water, also you need to then see, after you've had your first rain or whatever, preferably go and have it tested at the lab to see what your TDS is. Your TDS is your total dissolved solids. That will determine the type of microbes and stuff that you actually have in your water, or that you pick up along the filtration process or filtering process. That will tell you, do you have, or the level of purity of the water that you have. So if there's a lot of bodies in your water, lots of microbes and stuff that is contaminated, it's not safe to drink. Even after your filtration system, it might not be safe to drink. What some people or big businesses do with their water system is they have an RO plant. Now an RO plant is called a reverse osmosis plant. So that, and this is especially that they've set up at boreholes. So what happens is, your water's there, then it goes through this system. This our reverse osmosis system takes all the stuff out of the water, whether it's lead, whether it's magnesium, whatever it is, it strips it completely. But then it puts back certain minerals, because you can't also drink that water as is. When you consume RO water, you have to make sure that it is replenished. So when you buy bottled water, always look on the label of the, and it will say TDS at the back, and it will say what are the different things in there. So it might be magnesium, it might be calcium, it might be different things. So different types of bottled water have different things that is in the water, and this comes from what they actually put back into the water after the RO system. Because it strips the water, if you drink it just like that, it will pull out or leach all your nutrients in your body and flush it out when you pee. And you don't want that, because that is how the RO system works.
So there's a shop right who sells the reverse osmosis water. They replenish that.
You need to find out by them. So each shop might have a different
It's just one big thing.
yes, it's one big thing, but they might be pumping it back. So you need to ask the manager, what is it that they are replenishing the water with?
I think just
Or
to
has it
clarify
been
on that, I
replenished?
think it's the same like the filtration systems that you have at home. So those filtration systems that you have at home is that reverse osmosis type of thing. So if you get home and you look in your cupboard, you have that 3 filters with a separate spout. That is the same as that reverse osmosis, because that also has those filters in. It also has got a charcoal in. So you're just basically cleaning that water. It's coming from the tap. Right?
Actually, it's different. That is just a home filtration
No,
system.
but what I'm saying is that's the same type of setup that they have at the checkers and at the
Actually, they have mini RO plants. So it's not
just that.
it's not just that. Each shop might be different depending on what they can afford, and maybe some have the one you are speaking of, but most of them have these because they actually sell it in units, like shop RO systems, which is small and compact for that type of thing. So you just need to find out by the manager, do they replace or replenish whatever it is that they have sucked out of the water, basically. But again, it depends on what the store can supply, or maybe they just have the one you are referring to, which is the home type of system, which basically just has the charcoal, which is purifying the water. Now, what is also very important is microbes might pass through the system. You know, you can never say, okay, it's definitely 100% potable, which is drinkable. So always just depending on if you made it yourself, or you know how secure this biofiltering system is that you made or whatever, or bought or whatever. Always just if it's a high-tech system that costs a lot of money and it meets, that's why I say you have to go and have it tested to see does it meet the SANS requirements. If it does, if you don't have, because that's a lot of money, if you don't have, just always boil your water just in case, just to be sure.
Also, especially for parasites. Because
Yes.
that's also a big deal,
Yes.
and that causes a lot of the issues that you see from
That is true.
that's the eggs and all that.
Yes,
So
exactly.
Lisa, if I buy this reverse osmosis water at ShopRite, must I still rather boil it? Is that what you're saying?
Find out by the manager what type of reverse osmosis, and do they replenish they should have, like maybe on the side of the tank or something, they could have the TDS with the minerals that they are replenishing it with. If you see that there, then you know it's okay for drinking. If not, find out by the manager what type of system is going on.
So Lisa, okay, now that's replenishment, but what I'm talking about is even if they replenish it, must I still boil it for the microbes?
To be safe, yes, because they could
With
lie
reverse
to you.
osmosis.
So
Because normally with the reverse osmosis system, you usually use a UV
Yes.
like thing to
Yes.
kill pathogens and stuff.
But again, people always try to cut corners because of cost. So they might say it's UV system built and everything. Meanwhile, it's actually not. You don't know for sure. So I would say, unless you know for sure it's a verified system, it's gone through all the processes, like the UV, like the charcoal filtering, like the, replenishing of all the different stuff, then okay, it's safe. But if not, just to be sure, rather boil it. Rather safe than sorry. But it should technically be fine, but always just do your homework, because corruption is a real thing, as we know.
Fire hydrant.
Yeah.
Sorry to move back. You were saying about when we capturing water, so water wat van die dak af kom, né? From the roof, and your gutters is down and it's in your tank, whether you have it underground or raised on the ground. You said something about having a test set, but I'm assuming because it's rainwater, it's cleaner than what I can get from council. So that
Have you
might
heard
be
of
better.
geoengineering?
Yeah.
Have you heard of geoengineering?
Just that much. That's all I've heard about it.
Okay, so your water is not as clean as you think.
Even from the clouds, this is where I'm coming.
Yes,
Ah.
especially from the cloud. I don't know.
Make some
Also,
light there. Make some light on that. Little bit.
okay, so geoengineering basically is sometimes, and I'm going to be very selective with what I say. Sometimes some areas might suffer from drought, so they want to ensure that there's rain. So they will shoot certain chemicals into the atmosphere that will then create rain clouds so that it can rain, because there's drought. Those chemicals are still in the clouds and in the water because it made the clouds.
Okay. I hear you.
So you don't know what all is in those clouds. So rather be safe than sorry, because it's not like back in the day where technology didn't exist. Where what was from the clouds was pure.
Yeah, who knows what else is they
Exactly. Yes. What I can say is, when you're collecting water from the mountain, that is quite pure because of the amount of stones and the filtration and all of that. It literally, and the plant life and all of that, it all aids in the purification process. So it is a pure form, but again, always be safe rather than sorry, because you don't know what was done to it along the way also. Okay, because like I said, corruption is real, the agenda is real.
Also, if they spray, like maybe instead of boss, they spray the crops. I mean, the wind, the clouds, everything also pushes.
Absolutely.
So-
So pesticide, glyphosate, all of those things are carcinogenic, which is cancer causing. It's got lots of other toxins as well, which is very harmful to the body. It's endocrine disruptors as well. So it does blow into the water sources, and it could land in your water. Unfortunately, at the moment, even your tap water contains those things. It contains your remnants, your pharmaceutical waste, all of those things you can still find in the water, because the type of system that they use cannot remove those things. So tap water is a bit dicey. Always just rather boil your water or put on a kitchen filtering system.
And you do know it's very easy to open the tap and drink immediately when you're thirsty.
Yes,
And you're drinking other people's medication.
exactly. Pharmaceutical waste.
Yeah.
The ARVs, exactly. So ARVs, they just did a study where they found levels that is far beyond the recommended allowance on the surface of our water that we consume, that goes into the tap, that cannot be polished when it goes through the water filtration systems of the municipality.
So when water prices has gone up so much,
I put stop corks on all my taps and I turn the pressure down. So jy weet die kinders was hulle hande, daar's 6 mense in my huis en daar's 6 mense 100 mal 'n dag hulle hande was in die tap gat. They don't need that much. So you turn it down. I turned off all the hot water taps in my house except for the kitchen sink and the shower. So I use cold water and I turn the pressure down. So that's helpful. Then what I did was with the electricity, which gave me immediate, my electricity bill was between 2,000 and 3,000 rand a month. Because like I say, there's 6 of us. And I realized the one that's sucking the electricity is the geyser. So I had the gas, instant gas, constant heat. It's a bit pricey, but they put it onto your geyser. So it runs from your geyser to your shower. Again, I had it put from the geyser. So wherever the geyser distributes your water, all those taps still gets hot water. Instant water, I turned it from, so now you don't need to set your water at 55 like you had to do for your geyser to keep the microbes down. I set it on 39 degrees, which is perfectly fine. It cost me 650 rand for a 19 kilo gas bottle and it lasts me 3 months. It's my usage on my units is down to 100 to 120 units a month because now I'm just using it for my plugs and my fridge and we don't watch TV, so that's it.
Thank
So
you.
we don't-
That is a
and the-
beautiful explanation of how to save.
So-
However, we tried that. Our house is very big. Our roof is not insulated.
I've
and
got a
there's-
7-bedroom house and it works with 3
Okay.
bathrooms.
So that
But you need
didn't
to
work
buy
for
a bigger,
us.
that's why I said it's a pricey thing. You
Oh.
have to buy the bigger, the 8-liter system is about 6,000-7,000 rand, but you must buy the bigger, the 14-liter system if you have a big house. It's a bit pricey, it's 12,000 rand, but your savings is immediately. First month, you save already nearly 2,000 rand. So I've had it for maybe 4 months. So I'm 90% through paying for my system already.
That is a very nice way to save money, and thank you for telling us. But again, like I said, it doesn't work for everybody. We tried that because of of where the geyser is situated, also how the piping is. It cools off the water too much. So our water temperature needs to be about 67, and those units that you put on doesn't go to those levels. So we had lukewarm water when we put it in winter, which really was not technically it's healthy, but it's also not healthy because you can get colds and stuff from there. So again, it depends on what works for you. In some it will work. Immediate savings, as you said. It's a way to get off the grid. It's a way to help poor families. But you need to also see what works for you, your household, and especially the type of house that you have, because your house might be big. Ours is also big, but it's not the same. What works for her isn't working for us. So you really need to do your homework as to what and how things will work for you. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is your waste management. So when people talk about waste management, they mainly just think about putting out the dirt. It actually is not, and that is something we need to consider, because we need to start with how do we separate what goes into the dirt, right? Repurposing, reusing. We need to be conscientious when we go shopping. Take a bag with you. Use or buy items. Think about what went into this item. If there's a lot of packaging involved, also what was the supply chain that it had to go through. All those things have an environmental impact, as well as how it will impact the waste system. So the more layers of things that you have to take off the product when you buy it adds to the waste system, which is a problem, and you want to minimize. So in Cape Town, their landfills at the moment has almost reached capacity, and they don't have a new one. So we need to really start rethinking how we manage our waste, because what are we going to do when it's completely full and they don't have an alternative yet? So we can also help the system by changing our habits and how we do things. So try and buy things that have singular packaging, So it's just one thing that comes off, or preferably nothing comes off. Those types of things is things that you need to strongly consider. Repurposing things like this, repurposing things like using bottles, container planting for all these for different things that you can use in the house. There's lots of ways to repurpose things, and that's a whole nother workshop on its own. But try and reuse things instead of throwing it away for everyday use. Okay, now your wet waste is something that you don't have to put into your bin. I stayed in Korea, South Korea, for about 2 years. They have an amazing system. Like, you get a different color bag for the different types of waste. There's like 3 or 4 different types of categories. Like, this goes there, this goes there, this goes there, and it goes to different landfills. So their system and their infrastructure is really geared at environmental conscientiousness. But our system is not like that. We are far, far from that. Yes, we have waste systems now where you can take your plastic to and your glass to, and you can get money for that, and that's great. But it's nothing compared to overseas first world countries. So we need to start taking onus and doing it ourselves. Now, your wet waste is basically the peels of your vegetables and so forth that you would throw away. You can repurpose it. One, it can go into your composting for your garden, and 2, you can actually make spice bouillon from it. So, for example, if this week you ate broccoli, you ate celery, you ate pumpkin, you ate all these different vegetables. So instead of throwing it away or throwing it into your compost, keep it in a container, and at the end of the week you boil it all together. Add a little salt, and once it becomes mush, you can literally make your own spices from it. So once you boil it all together, because in skins of vegetables there's a lot of nutrients as well. For example, your orange peel has more vitamin C, actually double the amount of vitamin C than the actual orange inside. So it's about knowing these things and repurposing it for your household and for your health. So you can make your own spice bouillon, store it, either dehydrate it once it's boiled, put it on a baking tray into the oven until it gets hard, and you cut it up like you spice cubes basically. So you can make your own spice cubes from your wet waste.
So what is it? You boil it, then you liquidize it. And then
No, when you boil it, it becomes mush. It liquidizes itself. So once everything is liquidized through the boiling process, you then just put it on a baking tray and you bake it until it's hard, and then cool it off and you wrap it up.
So like stock block.
Like
stock,
this.
it's like stock.
Yes, stock cubes. So you would make your own little ones like this, and you would then. So I made quite a few, and then I made quite a few, and whenever we make food, we just take these out and we put it in. We don't go and buy stock cubes for seasoning. We make our own.
You freeze that.
No, because it's dried out.
It's dried out.
You can freeze it. You can put it in ice cube trays and put it in the freezer if you want to. And then whenever you're cooking, you can then pop out one of those ice cubes. That's what you can also do. But for longevity, because should the electricity go off and you're not set up yet, you have your dried stock cubes, which lasts for years.
So there that we sort of peel out the potatoes and everything. And we should actually just leave the skins on.
Yes, but peeling is also good because you can use it for various different things. You can regrow from peels. You can make the cubes. You can make poultices. There's lots of different ways you can actually use the skins. It's all about knowledge, and that's part of what we are learning. Okay, now for your effluent waste. That is your toilet, your pollutions, all of that stuff. If you want to go off the grid, what do you do with that? because literally all of us require the municipality sewage line for that. We can go off grid with water, we can go off grid with power, but that is one of the problems, especially because we are living in a concrete jungle. You need to think of the implications of what happens to your sewage. It is a very serious thing because it can cause serious health risks. Okay, so there is a lot of laws around that. So the different types that you can, there are more, but the main things that you can consider is a septic tank and a composting toilet.
Yes.
A septic tank, the rules around, so what a septic tank is in the ground, there's this tank that has certain chemicals in it. So when your waste goes into the tank, your gases rise and they are collected. And then the sludge, which is the hard feces and so forth, that then along with the chemicals is pumped into the soil, and the soil has lots of microbes that then decompose it and then make it usable and taken up into the soil. So it fertilizes the soil in that way, depending also on what is in your feces. So again, it's the water situation of, can you take out your pharmaceutical waste, your ARVs, all of those things? Because your soil health is also very important, because that goes into the food that you eat. So you want to really empower and build your soil, but that's another workshop on its own. Okay, so the septic tank, that is how it works. And then you need to consider a lot of things. And you need to get permission from your local municipality. There are rules, and certain areas have different rules around septic tanks, especially about the proximity, because you have to be the tank has to be 3 meters away from your house, or from your borderline, and from other people. So we're talking about a lot of space here. And if you are living in an area where everything is cramped, that will be a problem. Also, you need to consider the type of soil or sand or ground that you have around your house, because you need to also then do a permeability test. Like, is it going to be waterlogged? Because some sand clings onto water a lot. So it doesn't drain well. So then the feces could literally be stuck and waterlog the area around you, which is a serious health hazard. So the type of soil that you have around your premises is also very important and needs to be tested. The municipalities have the authority to override what the laws are of the country, so they can decide, yes, you can go ahead with it or not. It is up to them, but they need to adhere to certain standards. You also are only allowed a maximum of 2,500 liters, which is not a lot. So the bigger your household, the more problematic a septic tank might be, because you might go over the limit. And then, for example, the city of Cape Town has very strict rules, and you have to do permeability tests, which basically tells you how long the sludge will take to filter into the soil, how it filters into the soil, or whether it's waterlogged or not, whether it will stagnate, so there's a lot of testing involved with that you have to adhere to when you want to put in a septic tank. And also the soak away, so how long does it take to actually filter and soak away into surrounding areas. That also will determine the health hazard around it. So a septic tank is preferable, but for country living off the grid, not so much in the city unless you have lots of space. and your soil or sand or ground, whatever, is good. The next thing is your composting toilet. So your composting toilet, basically, it's almost like the concept of the type of the original toilets that they had in the Middle Ages when they first started with toilets. It's just a hole, like a drop hole, but with a difference. So it has, this is your toilet. It has this hole that then slants to the side, but it also has a vent that comes in to extract the smell. Okay, so normally with composting toilets, you'll think it's going to be a smelly process because there's no water, but actually the vent deals with all of that. And then you use something like straw or cocoa peat, which is what they use for gardening. It basically just allows the soil to breathe. So those are the types of things that you can use. For more advanced toilets, you can have for your urine and then for your feces, 2 separate vents, or at least tunnels or whatever you want to call it. Okay, and then you can also have a little water system that for your urine and so forth to dilute it, because that also brings a lot of microbes. And then you can then use hay or those types of things. You would then just throw it over your feces, and then the natural composting would occur, and it would then be taken into your soil or your ground or that type of thing. Or you can, once it's composted, you can then use it on your garden. But again, it depends on how healthy you are, because your medication will also be in there. So there's a lot of factors to consider. The next thing is,
So does the composting not have like a limitation in terms of
No.
amounts and stuff?
no, that's why it's easier to do that, but you obviously have to get an engineer to build it properly for you, because they would know how deep those vents need to go, those tunnels you need to go, and where the vents, the angles and so forth that it needs to have, and then how you, like, where you would be throwing the composting on. So that is the most preferable solution for households, although septic tanks is more likely, but again, there's a lot of legislation around that. So once again, it depends on you and what you actually want to do. There is the pit system, there's those types of things, but again, the municipality needs to get involved because they need to come and collect that. So a lot of the rural areas, they have that, not rural, but I mean the township areas, they still, some of them have the pit system where they come and collect your feces and you just into a bucket and then they collect it. Those systems still happen. But yeah, it depends on what the rules are in your municipality area, what it is you can afford and what it is that you prefer.
Sorry, so what do they do with those portable? What do they do with those portable things?
The portable toilet.
What they do is they just see if there's vents and stuff. What do they do with that?
It's the same type of thing.
Do they just
It's,
take it to the
yes,
to
yes,
Chemicals.
yes.
Chemicals
Yes,
there.
there's chemicals at the bottom. It's like a mini septic tank slash pit system. And then they just take it to the waste, to the sewage plant to put into the, pumped into the sewage system to purify and clean and so forth. Okay, the next thing is your house. You can start by trying to change the shape or the building material that you use. Like I mentioned in the beginning, that is it insulated? Is it can it absorb a lot of sun? There's a lot of technology that you can now incorporate into your infrastructure of your building that can actually save on the usage of your electricity, and can create more airflow, can create more heat, can create more cooling. Those are also different things that you need to consider. to make it more energy efficient. Doing that can help a lot, but obviously will also be costly. So again, it depends on the type of home that you have, what is already existing. If you live in gated communities, what is the rules of the corporate body? Because you're allowed to do certain things, you're not allowed to do certain things. So these are the types of things that you seriously need to consider. Then the next thing is you need to start trying to start your own food garden. Food security is extremely important, especially firstly because food is very expensive. Secondly, your health is very important. So try starting small, starting your own little food garden in your kitchen. If you too scared to start an actual garden, you get various types of gardens that you can start. You get lasagna layering. That is where you dig out like a huge area and you build the soil by laying different. So it's lasagna layering. So you layer with tins first and cardboard. That is to biodegrade, but also to feed the different types of minerals into the soil. And then you do eggshells and cardboard boxes and those types of things as a biodegradable, which also feeds the soil. Then you'll do a layer of brown leaves, twigs, those types of things. Then a green layer, grass, leaves, anything green, and you layer it like that until the top. Then you do your topsoil, and you do compost, and you do topsoil again, and you do compost, and then you plant. So that is the whole process, but the aim is you have to feed your soil. Your soil is the most important thing when you are planting, because what is in your soil feeds what you are planting. Unfortunately, the food that we get in our shops are nutrient deficient because they just plant and plant and plant, and they don't feed the soil because it's consumerist mindset. So it's all about the money and how much they can produce and so on. Whereas organic farming, for example, actually starts with building the soil so that what is in your vegetables is a lot of nutrition that feeds your body, because eating is all about feeding the proper nutrients that your organs and so forth need to make the proper nutrients that your body needs in order to survive. For example, calcium. The type of calcium that we've always been told to have is milk, when in actual fact milk is not good for us to ingest. Firstly, we are not cows. We do not have 4 stomachs in our body to break down the renin in the milk. What our body actually needs for our bones, the type of calcium that our body actually needs is what our body makes. So it needs to make its own type of calcium. So we need to feed it beta carotene and vitamin A. Those two, and the vitamin D from the sun. The vitamin D activates the process of taking those two and making the calcium and then feeding it to our bones. That is the type of calcium that we need, not direct actual calcium, because that calcium that we also drink, whether it's supplements or milk or whatever, actually leaches the calcium out of our bones. Same with the RO water type of concept. So if you look at the Scandinavian countries, lots of them, or most of them, have osteoporosis, yet they live on a dairy diet. They mostly eat cheese and drink milk because that is how life has always been set up. They deal with a lot of cows and so forth. So that's been their diet, and they have the highest cases of osteoporosis. Yet everyone says, but you need milk for the calcium, for your bones, to strengthen your bones. Yes, your bones need calcium, but the right type of calcium. So hence, what you eat is very important. And you need to get the proper sources, and you get that through what you feed into your soil, so that your vegetables can produce the proper amount of nutrients that it needs for your body's processes to happen. So starting your food garden is very important, firstly to supplement your food cost, and secondly to get the proper nutrition that you need. You can start off with doing things like this. So container windowsill gardens, you can start with herbs, or just taking old vegetable scraps. You can, like for example, celery or broccoli, you know, the base, you cut that off, you put it in water, it will start to grow roots, and it will start to grow stems. And once this has started, you can then plant it. And that's how you can start your own little garden, repurposing used vegetables or scraps from your food. This was an old sweet potato that was busy shrinking and started growing its own little stuff from the nutrients in here. It was at the back of the drawer somewhere that we missed. And then I put it in water and it started growing roots. So there's ingenious ways to start your own little garden if you are not, if you are a bit scared to start the bigger scale gardening. And then you can go to container planting, which is these types of things in plastic bags, in buckets, in containers. And then you can go to the actual in the soil gardening. But the most important thing is you need to feed your soil. And then urban survival. So this basically is learning to use what you have around you to survive. Do you know what weeds, what plants you can use to supplement your diet that just grow wild? You know, especially in poorer areas, you see long grass, you see all these different things. But 70% of those weeds that we see growing around and that people just pull out, or the council comes and cuts down, that is actually food. Because a lot of them has nutritional value, and a lot of them has medicinal value that you can actually, and medicine, as we know, going to the doctor is so expensive. So what do you do when you don't have the money? Do you have the knowledge to know what I can use this plant for example, in an emergency situation? What I can use this plant or that weed that is growing wild there? Can I make a meal from that weed? Those are the types of things that urban survival incorporates, where you literally are using what is around you to survive. Also things like using bottles to make containers to grow your stuff in. So this is just a bottle that was cut. You then fill this with water, and then you put your scrap in here. It can be garlic or whatever you want to, and it will grow roots, and once it's ready you can then put it into the ground. That is how you learn to repurpose, and this is a cost-effective way because you're just reusing what you were going to throw away. Then it's also things like this. If the grid goes down for whatever reason and you're not prepared, you don't have a renewable energy system in place yet, do you know how to repurpose tins to be a cooking source? So you can make a whole meal on something like this. You can make a whole meal from the weeds in your garden on something like this and have it be tasty with the spices that you made from your wet waste. You can have a whole repurposed meal just by using what you have around you, repurposing what you have around you. So knowledge is power, and it's very important to learn these skills. The disadvantages of off-grid living is that it has an extreme intense setup cost. Also depending on how big you want to go, but obviously the offset cost is going to be quite a lot. The maintenance, most people don't. They think, okay, once I have my system in place, I'm good to go. There's a lot of hidden costs in your maintenance. Things break all the time. Certain things need to be checked maybe 3-4 times a year. Is it still working properly, especially for your filtration system? There's a lot of pumps, there's a lot of gadgets that have a short lifespan. So you need to get people in, or if you have equipped yourself with the knowledge of how to maintain and construct, you can then do that yourself. But that is a very big hidden cost that most people don't consider. Obviously, your regular hurdles like new laws that come in. Yesterday you could do that, suddenly today you can't do that in your household. That require you to cough up more money. Then it is the dependence on the weather. So if you're going off grid and you mainly just have solar panels and it is raining like crazy, there's not a speck of the sun for months, what are you going to do? Because your solar panels can't charge without the sun. So now you have an expensive system, but it's pointless because it can't work. Do you have a backup plan for something like that? You know? So these are the types of things you need to consider that actually are disadvantages if you don't have it in place. You might have set up a whole water system and suddenly we have a drought. There's absolutely no water. And then it becomes a white elephant. Because what are you capturing? So do you have alternative measures for something like that? Okay? And then are you physically prepared? Do you have the knowledge, should something go wrong, to actually fix it yourself? If you don't have the money, do you know how to maintain something yourself? So knowledge is power. Like I said earlier, repurposing things doesn't cost anything. It is about knowledge and understanding how and where you can save to still live. So you need to consider all these factors, and those unfortunately, and the biggest factor is the cost implication. But again, if you're starting small, you can work towards what it is you want to achieve. The advantages, however, are you get financial independence. Yes, it's long term, but you are independent. You have autonomy. So you are not dictated by the rules of the municipality or the society that you live in, because this is your own. It is not something that you rely on to survive. So you put your own rules in place by having these interventions set up around your house so that nobody can tell you, we're cutting off the water. What are you going to do? Comply or you don't get water. Comply or you don't get electricity. I don't know if you saw, but they are thinking of bringing in, because so many people have migrated to Cape Town because of the municipality failures and infrastructure failures in the rest of the country. A lot of people have moved to Cape Town, which has impacted the traffic in a very big way. And so people are now sitting for hours in traffic.
And the road construction makes it worse.
The road construction to upgrade, to accommodate this, is creating a bigger impact. So now they are thinking of implementing a tax that when you are sitting in traffic, you pay for that tax. So basically, they're forcing you to either take public transport, which is now going to be cashless, or you have to work from home, which your boss might not agree to, or you're gonna have to start your own business. So your choices are being minimized a lot.
They keep adding to that, saying that they are looking at it, but they are first going to try and fix the transport system. So that they can put the charge in place.
Yes.
Because currently there is no public transport system that's sufficient for us.
Yes. But they're starting with the taxis. So now the taxis are going cashless. So you need to have a digital ID, or you need to use your phone, or you need to use your card, or there's another e-wallet system for the taxi system. My city is also going to go on there. So that is what they're going to start implementing now.
Sorry, man, I just want to say, and you know, even above that, so that's countrywide, but worldwide, you heard about the charge that they're looking at charging us for water, for use of water.
Yes, exactly. So that is coming. They are tokenizing water, is
Yeah.
what it's called. So because water is an everyday asset, you need water to survive. You can still do without food, but you can't do without water. So they are now going to tokenize water by you need to get water. Basically, any stream or whatever that you want to collect, you can't. That is basically what it is. So the only way to get water is through the system, the municipality infrastructure.
There's an air to water system as well.
Sorry,
There's an air to water system as well.
I can't hear you.
An air to water system. So there's a machine that pulls in air to create
Yes,
water.
but what about the laws? So if they say that's not allowed, what are you gonna
Then
do?
you can't set it up. So it's control.
Sorry,
It
what
comes
happened
down to
with
control.
those expensive things that you for the sea water, you know, when we were supposed to
Desalinization.
What happened to that?
They are busy implementing desalinization plants so that they can filter water from the sea. It is expensive. Everything is a cost. So these are just things that you need to consider. We are going to take a break now. Nazira, we're going to take a break
Just
now.
if people need to stretch a little bit
Okay.
and chat a little bit. Just
And
10
then
minutes.
we'll
And
dive into country living.
then we have another hour left, inshallah.